the waiting room, and then we'll get started. Okay. Well, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for the fourth annual Delaware County Sustainability Conference, hosted by the Delaware County Office of Sustainability. My name is Becca Yurkovich, and I'm the Delaware County Sustainability Officer, and I'll also be serving as the host for today's session to ensure that your experience leaves you feeling informed and inspired. First, with some housekeeping items, the session will take place in a Zoom webinar format, meaning participants will remain off camera throughout the duration of the presentation. To ask a question, you may either type in the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen or click the raise a hand button if you would like to ask your question out loud. Questions will be addressed following the presentation, and they will be answered in the order in which they were received. However, if we see lots of questions that are of a similar nature, we may bump those to the front. We will do our best to ensure that all questions have been answered. However, we will be promptly ending the session at the top of the hour. Now, to kick off our session, I'm very excited to welcome Christa Bradfield, who will share her presentation, Digging Deeper: How Regenerative Food Systems Nourish Physical Health, Environmental Health, and Social Equity. Christa Bradfield is a healthcare professional turned farmer and lifelong Philadelphia resident. It was 10 years into her career in the healthcare administration when she realized that work-life balance was unhealthy. She resigned from her job and embarked on a solar trip to Martinique and returned home inspired to connect with the land, to colonize the outdoors, and assess social issues that heavily impact Black and Brown communities and all people access to organic food. So without further ado, I'm happy to turn it over to Christa.
Hello, everybody. So happy to be here. Yeah, really excited to dig in. Thank you, Rebecca, and thank you to Delaware County Sustainability Conference for having me. The really important things that we're going to dig into today, as was stated, is what I like to call the FarmerJawn formula. And it's really based off of my background in healthcare first. And so I really base everything that I do and how I move and decisions that I make for my organization from a lens of health to continue to perpetuate that. And to me, working in a bustling practice for 10 years to now transitioning into agriculture, I recognize that the true way to health starts in the soil. And the Farmer Joan formula consists of three main aspects of health. That is environmental health, that's physical health, and social health that pulls it all together. And so all three of those things are in unity and synchronicity. Then true health and wellness for a region, for an individual can actually begin to take place. That's where true healing starts. And just to give a brief introduction, my name is Christa Bradfield. I'm the founder and CEO of FarmerJawn Agriculture. I started this journey about 7 years ago now, and really have transitioned so much into now managing and stewarding 128 acres of soil, and being able to work with farmers all across the world and connect, to learn, to inspire, and to create real change. And I am really happy to be able to share what my true beliefs around regenerative agriculture is, that versus conventional, so that we can actually see regenerative become conventional. If you understand what that means, is that conventional is the normal way of doing things, but I would love to see us get to a place where regenerative organic agriculture is the norm. And the core idea is that urban communities, especially, are not separate from agriculture. They're absolutely vital to it. And a lot of rhetoric around agriculture is always stated with separating urban, and urban agriculture is just as important. And many of the farmers and I'm speaking from farming on a smaller scale in an urban environment, and still doing so, to now also adding this much larger acreage, a lot more space, with which is and mimicking, even though it's in a kind of suburban, more so neighborhood, it's still very much so a rural style of farming. And so now we're fusing all three of these together, and I see more than ever that urban agriculture and rural agriculture have so many similarities, and those farmers don't get the opportunity to actually share and speak. And so Delaware County, being in such a unique environment, because while there's so much urban community, there's still also rural parts that exist there, and there's land and there's opportunities to grow for both, for every aspect of agriculture. And so I'm really excited to share ways that I think that we can bring this together, really dig deep, and make sure that we have one food system that unites all of us, regardless of where it is that we live, regardless of socioeconomic status, and all of those other factors that or labels that can seem divisive, but really we all eat, and all of our food comes from the soil. At least it should, and we want to ensure that our counties and the ones that connect us all in the greater Philadelphia region all recognize and know who their farmers are. And there's so many to choose from. So why local regenerative agriculture matters. The connection between soil and human health has been studied for years, and it's so important for people to recognize that there are data-driven points to really prove how important it is to know who your farmer is, know how that soil is being cared for and taken care of, because it is absolutely going to impact the health of yourself, and not only you, the people that are coming after you. And I'll talk to you about how the health issues that we're experiencing now have actually were impacted by the soil health and the food that our ancestors were eating. So regenerative farms have shown to increase soil carbon by 10 to 20% compared to conventional methods. Higher soil organic carbon improves water retention, fertility of that soil. So all those microorganisms that are moving and living, soil is very much so a living thing, and we need to nourish it just as we take care of ourselves and the people that we care for. It's so important to ensure that we are caring for our soil by not causing it any additional harm. The structure of that soil, that microbial activity is heavily impacted by things that we do on a regular basis. So from a regenerative agriculture standpoint, whether you're gardening at home, I know a lot of people are getting into that and have been over the last 5 years. We've seen a major increase in that type of activity in our communities. And I want to share with people the best way to actually take care of the soil at home, whether you're nurturing the soil that's been there, or if you're adding some soil amendments or adding additional soil for that you're getting from a Home Depot or a local gardening store. It's really important because what you're doing is providing a home for these new microorganisms that are coming to live. You're providing a home for the pollinators. So you're literally building a home for other living things when you are building your garden. So it's really important that we are taking care of that soil as we create these new ecosystems. Locally grown food right now is traveling an average of 27 times fewer miles than imported produce. The food that's on your tables that we are, or even the food that we're eating in our workplaces, we're going to talk more about that. That food is coming 1,500 plus miles just to get to your table. Um, I remember walking into a grocery store and recognizing that there was some, great looking produce, seemingly so. And then I looked at where it was from, and it was carrots that I was getting that was from California. And, there are certain things that I will certainly eat from elsewhere, citrus, especially, Florida growing some of the greatest citrus, really making sure that those farmers are being able to get what and their farm workers, especially, are getting what they need and paid well, what they're worth. But if it's something that we can grow here, then it's really important that we're educating people on when things are in season and when they're not, or if they never will be in season in this zone, which is zone 7A. So 7B, actually, because it continued to transition with all of the global warming and environmental impact. And we'll talk more about that as well. But urban agriculture reduces food miles. So you knowing who your farmer is going to ensure that the food that you're eating is grown closer to you, and the food growth grown closer to you is also the food that is better for you. It's also going to increase nutrient access. the food, once it comes out of the ground, it immediately starts to die, and essentially is what is taking place. So there's a time clock on produce in general. And so on food in general, after it's being harvested or what have you, it's important to have a plan for that produce. And it's important to make sure that the best way you're doing that is to know who your farmer is. And a lot of what we do at FarmerJawn is that we love to harvest to order. If we're working with a wholesaler or somebody that a restaurant or a grocery store, we love to harvest to order. We want to wait for you to tell us what you want, and then we'll go ahead and harvest it once you've ordered it. And for our storefronts, we are harvesting food and being able to put it right on the shelf same day. So that is something that is unique to a farm like ours, being as though we do have a storefront that is attached to our farm, and we do have our growing facilities as well as retail. So we want to be able to work with partners to be able to increase their ability to have the freshest food possible. And being as though we're local, that makes that even easier. And so I want to help be able to cultivate more agricultural producers in our area that have the same mindset. I'm recognizing that even with a small team, because we are definitely small and mighty on our 128 acres, we're farming with a farm team of 5 people. And so, and getting a lot done, cultivating 30 acres of that just for produce, and maintaining the rest of it under cover crop as we work towards our regenerative organic certification. So, 30 acres of produce is a lot of food. It is a lot of food. And so having a plan for it is important, and us being able to work with other local farmers to show them that anything is possible. If you set up and have a plan, and be able to have a person and people who are excited about your produce to get it to them. And so that's what today is really about, is ensuring that environmental piece that we're taking care of on our end, and getting that physical health piece, making sure people understand why it's important to eat the best produce, and because that connects that social piece for all of us so that we can all be in sync. And the environmental impacts, as well as the physical impact of the food we're eating, is in direct correlation. And I always tell people that the way that we are eating right now is definitely going to impact our future, right? All the people that are coming after us. And I speak to the lineage, because if you think about all the ailments, working in healthcare for 10 years, I've seen it all. And I really thinking about all of the ailments that we're dealing with as a nation, really really unique to other organizations, excuse me, other countries. It's really important to recognize why we're dealing with these at a much higher rate than others, whether it be high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, all of these things. We really need to think and turn to the soil when we're figuring out how to remedy these problems. What I love about urban agriculture, outside of the ability to increase health for all of us, is also the workforce development piece. We've been working for a long time to really get people on board of how agriculture is going to help create hyper local jobs. I have imagined for years this idea and philosophy of everybody having their own neighborhood farmer, and I really do believe that that's something that's possible. And in the coming years, I'd love to be able to work alongside partners to put this into action. But imagine in Delaware County, looking at some empty lots that are blighted, and that have not been in use and have not been serving the community. If we could change those and allow training for a person to understand how to manage whatever the square footage is, whether it's between 3,000 to 10,000 square feet, but that small space with intensive growing practices can most certainly feed many people. And I love the idea of a community being able to go to their local corner garden and know exactly who their farmers are, and be able to know exactly what's growing there, and be able to get those staples that they need. And the PLOT, if you're not familiar or not in the food industry, those are the main crops that a lot of restaurants ensure that they have. Many farmers are ensuring that they're growing these things, and that's potatoes, that's your lettuce, that's your onions, and that's your tomatoes. So plot. And those four things, if we can have these staples growing all around when they're in season, really focusing on that seasonality piece, and ensuring that it is in abundance for community, we could feed so many people. and make sure that people have what they need to make their basic most basic meals. And I'm that's something I want to work with. And if anybody is excited as I am to really see urban agriculture come to life and really see how a lot of these farmers who are smaller scale or growing can actually do this to make sure the community is well fed, but also commercialize. There is a way to monetize and profit and make and be able to profit in agriculture. And I know that agriculture is so much looked at a pauper occupation, but it isn't. You know, everybody has to eat. And so just as anybody, a farmer should be able to make a living, should be able to, pay their bills and have cushion to live a well lived life. And I believe that we can do that. So I'd also love to see agriculture as it is, using the spaces that we have, turning them into green, beautiful spaces that are filled with abundance to really feed our communities. I always say that to heal a nation is to feed them well, and I believe it can start at the corner of many of our blocks in these cities and in our municipalities. We're reclaiming urban food sovereignty. And I want to discuss the disconnection from food systems due to systemic disinvestment. It's always the elephant in the room, but we know that to be true, and we need to change it. We already recognize what the problems are. And the reason why that we have so much blight in various communities on these street corners is that there's not enough people, and this is going towards our elected officials. We put the right people in office so that they can make things happen that benefit their constituents. And so when I am asking, is there any land in any blighted spaces that we can work with people who are already farmers or are up and coming farmers or any of that, I am talking to our our elected officials to be able to look into those communities and say, yes, we have these people who have been already farming on these empty lots, but how can we take them to the next level? And that's what we need to get to. And so really taking the dollars that we have through all of the funds that exist in government and be able to really invest those dollars, because I promise you we can really aid so many of the major grievances that's coming down to the violence in our communities. Urban agriculture can fix that. The people being hungry, urban agriculture can fix that. Health issues that we're suffering from, urban agriculture can fix that. The list really does go on. And workforce development, people needing jobs, urban agriculture can fix that. I really want to just lean into that even more, and to make people understand that it's not about hobby culture. And we don't necessarily need another community garden, but we need to, if we're going to have a community garden, it needs to actually do what it needs to feed the community, and we can make that happen. We just have to change the framework and change the system of what community garden has traditionally meant. I've worked in community gardens. I love them. I have had a couple of myself over the years. But what I will say is that having a lot of the size of 3,000 square feet or larger, and having small 2x4 2x8 foot boxes or what have you, that individuals are paying $35 for to be invested in it, many of them through the season, some of them not through the entire season. It's a misuse of space. And I'd like to see us really level this up so that we can make sure that our communities are being fed, even if it is just with that PLOT, that plot, those main crops that people are using every single day. We can make a difference. So I will explain to you just another concept that Farmer John has been working on, and it is called Corner John. Corner John is, we've been working on it for a year. It's taken a lot to bring it into fruition, and we are getting very, very close. Our first one will be in Kensington, and I'm going to tell you why. In 2018, the Philadelphia Department of Health and Drexel School of Public Health worked together, excuse me, to put together and do a study that talks about the health outcomes of community. So Philadelphia itself is split into 46 neighborhoods, or it was. I'm sure that's changed with all the new names that are coming out. But there were 46 neighborhoods. And out of those 46 neighborhoods, what this study did was break down each neighborhood and talk about where it ranked. 1 through 46 on health outcomes and who were struggling and what were some of those social determinants of health that impacted the health outcomes. It's an excellent study. I'll make sure that's shared with all of you as well. And what I found amazing when they really did this research was that number 46 was Kensington. Number 36 was Germantown. And I am a Germantownite. I am from Northwest Philadelphia. And that gave me this. I was like, I really, really want to have impacts I want to see where the most impact could possibly be. So while I'm building this out and I'm doing the research and I'm recognizing that those neighborhoods that are in that lower from 36 to 46 that are struggling the most with health are also a lot of the neighborhoods that are being gentrified at a very, very fast rate, a fast pace. So I'm recognizing the correlation between systemic disinvestment and then these now becoming opportunity zones as well. And so I'm just going to be very honest about that. I want to see us really take those words opportunity zone and really change that into in a way that's actually going to be beneficial to the people who have already lived there and invested their time and energy and to calling that place home historically. And then for all the people who are coming into these communities, we want to be able to welcome them with open arms because they do bring new energy, they do bring um, lots of dollars, frankly, to be able to see these communities become better, but not at the loss and the discount of the natives. And so I know that there are neighborhoods like that exist in Delaware County, and I also believe that what we need to do is look at where are the health outcomes, doing. Where are people needing the most help in those communities in Delaware County? And that is where we need to start really doing the work. So FarmerJawn is a food as medicine concept corner store that we are working to build out in Kensington. It will open with with a pay what you wish pay model. That's also something I'd like to try. I truly believe that if we are going to live together in harmony, again, going back to that one food system, regardless of how much money you have or don't have, regardless of your background, we all deserve to be eating the same food that is free of chemicals that only promotes health. And if we're all going to live in these communities together, if we are going to start looking at this word gentrification as less of a bad word, but as a word that means that we can be united, there's a lot that needs to happen on the governmental side when it comes to tax law that we are not going to be able to fix on this 1 hour session that I have with y'all, but I am putting that out there that I do believe that we all can live in some form of unity together if we really are focusing on making sure that everyone's core needs are met. And so community empowerment comes from that, and self-determination can happen through local food. And this pay what you wish model, and I'll just give you an overview because I love to see other grocery stores be able to see if it'll work for them. But it is meant to be the most humane system possible, where you get to the register with your items, and on the screen, it simply shows you a lower price, it shows you the regular price, and then it shows a higher price. And it gives you those three options. There's no word spoken about it. Literally, it's confidential. It's between you and that screen, and you get to pick what you're going to pay. Not even the cashier knows. And honestly, I don't know if that technology or software exists yet, but it is something that I'm very, very interested in seeing come to fruition or create. There's a way that we're planning to do it that's not as seamless, but I know that it's possible to create some seamless tech around this. And I love all the techie people out there to reach out to see if there's something that we can really create, because I love to see this implemented not just at FarmerJawn but at the larger stores as well. And it can be the way that we just do things, and I do believe that the that bottom line will balance. That's my belief, and that is my hope. And when I look at numbers and when I go through financial models with myself and my CFO, we see that this is possible. And so I'd love other people to get on the bandwagon to see if it really is, because that's where true community empowerment lies, and making sure people have dignity. And this is the way that we're gonna test that and see if we can do it. We are in the region. I like to call it the region of brotherly love and sisterly affection. And so I believe that if we're going to get this done, the region of Philadelphia should be the ones to really spearhead this. So, the intersection of food justice, health equity, and environmental justice, I'm going to just return there for a little bit. Black and Brown communities face the highest rates of diet-related illness. And regenerative agriculture is organic agriculture, in my opinion, and is a method of resistance and is a method of healing. And so, real-world challenges and how we navigate them, that's the zoning of our communities, the funding, the community trust, all of these things. It requires us to really work together. Zoning issues when it comes to land, like all of these lots that are completely empty or blighted, we have to really get to working with our local council to find out how we could be better utilizing this land and what funding is available. Because funding is absolutely available. There are so many initiatives at the state level that do trickle down to our county and township levels so that we can be able to tap into funding to make our communities better. Learning about all of the land trusts that exist, and I'm not aware, but I'd love to know if there is Delco Community Trust that focuses on land. And because there's so many people that are fired up and excited about actually taking land and turning it into something beautiful for our communities. And we want to be able to give them the funding that's necessary to do that. I will say farming is not cheap. There's a lot of investment that I have made, so much, not even just into all the supplies, but the land itself, and so because of the high cost of land, and mind you, Farmer John, we don't own any of our land, we lease all of it. And so leasing 128 acres, you can imagine, is not cheap. And so it's important for others to know this. I don't want I want to remove the wool from people's eyes of thinking that agriculture is just, you can get some land and you just start growing and it's great. There's so many challenges that come along with it. And so we need to support. We need to just give people the proper support, the proper knowledge, and so that they can flourish without setting up people to fail, because that's very easy and simple to do. I know too many farmers who have started this journey and have not been able to see it all the way through because of the lack of support, the lack of resources, the lack of technical assistance, even in filling out applications. So that's another thing that I would also implore to our legislative officials to be able to look at the processes of which we are going about to ensure that people can have access to any resources, but especially when it comes to agriculture, trying to cultivate land and so forth. We can do better. And I'd love to be able to be alongside you in creating and giving insight into what's needed and how to have people get to success. Kensington is ranked the unhealthiest neighborhood in Philadelphia. And so I know for sure that Delaware County also has those regions where they have, where people need more from the diabetes, from the heart disease. Those food insecurity rates are directly correlated. And in certain areas where you have the most unhealthiest populations, unfortunately, those populations are typically Black and Brown, and it exceeds the averages for the entire county. Usually, it does in the city of Philadelphia. So I can only imagine. So I really want to just be a aid and an assistance and be a listening ear so that we can come up with some true solutions that are long lasting. This is about legacy. We are continuing to have the same conversations over and over again, year after year, and I'd love to see us get to a space where where we all have the understanding and then we all know what the next step is. I know many of you on this call have probably been to lots of conferences, lots of meetings. And I for one am tired of simply meeting and simply going to conferences and speaking and having all these great ideas without action. So I implore to you, one of the things that we could be doing to ensure that there's actual action that's taking place is it starts with us. And it starts with us where these big issues always it seems so big. It's like, where do you begin? But what I'd like to share with you on a personal level, it can begin with you. One, again, just knowing who your farmer is. And two, on the next level, whether it's your organization or your employer, the food that is coming into your workplace needs to be from somewhere local. And that's point blank, period. I implore to the Delaware County officials and the government framework within, also ensuring that the food that you're bringing into your spaces is also coming from somewhere local and coming from a local farmer. I've been to many places and many, I would say, lovely government buildings throughout our nation, and when they have cafeterias, I'm be very honest with you, it pains me that in those spaces that the cafeterias are typically being run by very large those catering companies, that's what they do. And what I'd love us to see is that they really make a focus on working with local farms. Whether I understand that local farms aren't always able to do volume at the higher levels, but there are farms such as FarmerJawn, such as others that are in, even if you're going out to Lancaster County, there are some farmers there that care about their soil. There's a lot of Amish people that I work with, and a lot of other folks in the region between Delco, Chester County, and Berks County that care about their soil. And so we really just need to focus on where we're getting our food from. And I do not want to have our community that we're feeding, the people that we say that we care about, even at these food giveaways. We need to be mindful of the food that we're giving out to people as well, because it sends a message. It sends a message. And if we're storytellers, storytelling is how we get things done. And as storytellers, we need to be succinct and clear in our motives. And that is very it's apparent to people. And we need to make it apparent to them that when they get something, they notice that there is a Pennsylvania symbol on it, that it's coming from their great state, and even better if it's coming from a place that farmer that lives right by them. So I'll digress just a bit. There are, but I am telling you to make sure that you know who your farmer is. Make sure you start to shop with them, because their ability to actually be a business really does depend on you. The power of reconnecting agriculture and urban communities is the power of the food system. And like I always say, to heal a nation is to feed them well, and that starts right here at home, in our counties, in our communities, is that we can heal ourselves and heal the people and heal relationships and heal all the grievances that we have, if it starts in the soil. So, the best way to get involved, I would say, again, supporting your local farm, policy advocacy, even volunteering. So, some people don't even understand what it is to be on a farm. They don't understand the concepts around agriculture, and that is so okay. Giving your time, even if it's just an hour, to go out to actually see what the farms in your area are doing, to see what they look like, to see what agriculture truly looks like. It's not. There's many differences in types of farms. There are farms that focus directly only on agritourism. So when you go, you're walking through fields of beauty, and everything is perfectly paved, and there's no everything's weed whacked. Like, that's not the normal. That's not normal for most farms. So it's important that you understand the farmer and meet them where they are, and so they can tell you about what they do and why they do it and what's important to them. The environment, we all know we only get one. Our bodies, we only get one, and we're all on this planet for a short period of time to be able to connect so with each other. And so that environmental, that physical, and that social health is super important. And I hope that from this talk today, you were able to take away some great next steps for yourself, for your own households, for your organizations that you work for, and for your community. And so let's get together, let's come to the table, and let's talk about how we can do things better to make sure that we have the best and most sustainable future. And so that's no longer a buzzword for us. Sustainability means that we're going to sustain, we're going to be here, and we're going to make sure that our community is better for the time that we've had on this earth. So thank you so much for allowing me to be with you all, and I'm really looking forward to this Q&A session.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Krista. That was so informative and like so empowering. I don't know about everybody here, but I feel ready to go. So, thank you so much for calling us all to action and
My
giving
pleasure.
us those clear steps moving forward. So, one thing I did want to kick off with in terms of a question, I'm not sure everyone knows where your farm is currently. So, if you wouldn't mind just kind of sharing where you're located and where those two farm stands are that people can come be patrons of.
Oh, absolutely. So we are in Chester County is our larger farm. So that's 123 acres. And it sits on, I would say, it's around the corner from Cheney University. So literally across the street from me is Delaware County. We sit right on that county line. And so we are at 1225 East Street Road in Chester County on 926. And Thornberry Township is actually the one that's right across from me for those who are aware of that. And yeah, so that's one of our farms. We're open pretty much every day. We're only closed on Mondays. We also offer field trips. So if you happen to be in Delco, but closer to the Philadelphia side, you can totally get on our school bus that we charter every single Saturday to bring people up to the farm. Yes, please. Thank you, Becca. Check out our website, go to the events page. You'll see everything that we have going on. And then our storefront in Kensington that we've been working on for years. We are so close and almost there. This is the first project that I've ever built from the ground up. When I first got introduced to this building, it was rubble. And so this was something that I was able to be a part of from day one. So I'm really proud of it and excited for when we do finally get all the way there, as it was inspired by this amazing study by the Department of Philadelphia Public Health and the Drexel Public Health Department. And so, yeah, come visit us in Kensington when we're open, but please stay close to the events page because that's where we share everything that we're doing. And we do have some activations at our Kensington site that will be coming soon, even though the store won't be open yet, but we do have a beautiful courtyard that I can't wait to share with you all.
Thank you so much. Next, we do have a couple questions from our audience. So, first is from Julie Prey, and her question is, would you please speak to the issue of land access for small farmers in our area? Do you have any specific recommendations for landowners or municipalities on how to create neighborhood farms?
Absolutely. And thanks for asking that question because there is an organization that currently exists called Farm Link. And I had the opportunity to speak with them while I was in Harrisburg at Farm Show. If you haven't been to Farm Show yet, please, that's another tidbit that I'll share with y'all. Make sure you're out there. It's every January. So anyway, I'll share more information for that too. But yeah, thank you for sharing Farm Link and also tag the link for Pennsylvania Farm Show if you can. Becca, thank you. I do sit as one of the commissioners for the Pennsylvania State Farm Show, and I'm really proud of that because there is not a lot of representation for on many facets, but especially for the smaller farmers. And that's something that for folks who are very interested in getting into urban agriculture and understanding how to grow and how to monetize on a smaller scale, we've started to include more resources for you. So this is now a space where you feel welcome as well and feel like you can walk away with some tangible next steps. But as I said, farmland does exist, but it is really focused on the much larger. There are so many people that own land, whether it be their backyards or just lots that they particularly own privately that they're not using. And you'd be surprised how many people are so willing to be able to offer that land to someone who would like to steward it for greater good, like growing food. So that does exist on a larger scale. I know I spoke with FarmLink and they said they would be interested in doing some smaller subset. But while that still does not exist, I'd love to work with the Delco to be able to figure out how we could get something even that's focused just on this county to say like, hey, what land is not being utilized, who has what, and see if we can connect it to farmers because that's what that platform does. And I can see a world where we can create something similar countywide.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Next question comes from Shari Stuber, who's out of media. Is your USDA funding in jeopardy due to the current administration?
Yeah, thanks for that question. So I will say that I built FarmerJawn really focused on ensuring that we had clients to grow for. And so one of our larger clients that is struggling and impacted by the loss of funding is Phil Abundance. They worked with us last year. It was really wonderful working with their CEO, Lori, to be able to create a world where we could be a grower for them. And that's not something they had normally done in the past and at that level that we were doing it. And so, we were able to grow 10,000 pounds for them, over 10,000 pounds of food for them and be paid for it at a reasonable rate that allowed us to be able to pay our team pretty well. And this year in 2025, unfortunately, after we had already planted everything that we had, wanted, we had already set it on salaries for our teams, all of that. In March is when all the funding was snatched away from our partners, so that then does impact us. We also had hopes of working with the share food program. We had hopes of working with other local partners that do rely on this food, grocery stores, look co-ops that rely on that type of funding. And so while weren't waiting for that funding directly to us, it did impact us by the loss of those contracts. I was working alongside a good friend of mine as a farmer in North Carolina. We were working on a Black woman's farmers regenerative grant where she had gotten some promised funding for. And that was a little over $500,000 that was supposed to be doled out over 5 years. And that was also snatched. So, all of the working with PASA, another amazing organization that's local, Pennsylvania Sustainable Agriculture, we worked alongside them to be able to get some of their climate smart funding for some of the things we were doing to repair our soil at our larger farm. And they also, unfortunately, they no longer had their funding, so we didn't get that. So a lot of what the loss for us is more that we put a lot of money out up front to do things, and those reimbursements are not coming back. There's in the foreseeable future. So yeah, thank you for that question. And that's a reason why we're really working to ensure that our farms are not just reliant on that type of funding directly, and more so that we need you as the patrons. We need organizations, we need government to be really investing in their local farms to ensure that when things like that do happen, there's not buckets of funding that's being snatched. It's just like, no, people are eating. People just need to eat, and they're buying their food from us, and that's how we sustain.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Cora Pinhock. She said, "Do you check the history of the city plots you use? My parents and grandparents had backyard vegetable plots. Are you teaching how to protect against rodents with fencing and flowers that repel rodents? Also, do you teach healthy cooking?" So, a couple different questions there. Feel free, I can happily
Yeah.
repeat any at a time.
Yes, I'll start with the first one. So the soil testing is what's most important. So anytime we go onto any piece of land, excuse me, the first thing that has to be done is we have to soil test. We need to see what it is um, full of, like what it's doing great, all those nutrients, whether it's potassium or calcium, sodium, what's in the soil that's great, and then what's might be too much of it. So we have to do that to level set, so we know what amendments we need to bring to the soil to be able to make it flourish for vegetables or whatever we decide to be growing at that time. Um, so that's what's important. And Pennsylvania State University has an amazing resource. As they are the ag extension for our state. They also have these wonderful days in August. I believe they're August or September, but they're called Ag Progress Days. And if you're not familiar with them, my first year going was actually last year. And it's literally just this outdoor farm show, as I like to call it. But it's really great. A lot of the elected officials in our area, in our region, do go to it as well. So you get to see their presence, and all the farmers. It's like a farmer get together, and it's great. The farm show is the same in January, but definitely do go to the Ag Progress Days. You will leave with a wealth of knowledge. And what I'd like to see differently there, and the only thing I would suggest, is that they start to do more for the smaller farmers as well. But like I said, agriculture is what it is, no matter where it is. If it's growing on a smaller scale, the tomato is going to grow very similarly as it is growing, a few miles away in a rural community. It's just about understanding how to grow things more intensively, potentially because you're in smaller you have smaller space, but the soil composition is the same. It needs to be the same, so that's no difference. And again, we're talking about growing at a soil level. I think I might have missed a question in there. What, Becca, could you help me
Sure.
out?
So that was the first one. And then the second one was about dealing with rodents. Do you teach people how to deal with rodents with
Yes.
fencing or flowers?
So I would say that's not really our main focus. We do have experience with it. So if you come to volunteer, that would primarily be on our farm in Cheltenham, which is in Montgomery County. That farm has it's 1 acre that we now have deer fencing on, which we didn't have in the first few years we were there, and we a lot of our crops were eaten. We are constantly battling groundhogs, so like we're kind of in their environment, right? So there are definite ways that you can help, but planting them a garden is what I will say is has been the most success, gotten us the most success. Is fighting them and trying to trap them. It can, can lead to be helpful, but or not. And but I will say just plant them their own garden tends to be a little bit better sometimes. So there's no exact science to that, to be quite honest with you. But I will say that, again, the Pennsylvania Ag Extension can offer a lot of resources when it comes to home gardeners to be able to assist.
Thank you. And then the last question in that batch was, do you guys do anything with healthy cooking? So teaching in that space.
Oh, so we don't do any teaching for healthy cooking as of yet, and that's simply because that will require us to have some funding to do so. I will say, however, we do these on our Instagram, and we're going to ramp it up a bit more. So we're working with a chef that's going to partner with us to be able to do these cooking, I guess, snippets, cooking segments on our Instagram page, which will then end up being on our YouTube. So I'll say that we with every CSA, every single CSA member weekly does receive recipes from us. And so that's nice. So you can look on our website. You can also look on our Instagram. You'll see some of the things that we've produced already in the cooking sphere. And every single Saturday, when you come to FarmerJawn on the field trip or you do the tour, we always have snacks and different small bites utilizing the food that we grow on the farm. And then you got to come to a dinner. You got to come to one of our farm to table dinners that we do throughout the season. Yeah, so there's a lot of opportunities to see how you could be utilizing fresh produce in real time.
Thank you. Next, we have a question about your corner, John. Can you share the location of where that's going to be in Kensington?
Yeah, so that is 1820 East Haggard Street. So we are essentially front in Kensington. If you're familiar, there's like a curve on the L, and we are right off of that. So the street is called Haggard. That's Hagert. And we have two amazing neighbors next to us too. One business that's currently already open, and that's called Citrine. So they're a tablescape company. So we look forward to producing some of our farm to table dinners alongside them in that space. And then on our other neighbor is a coffee roaster called Win Win that will be opening alongside us. So yeah, there's a lot of great synergies between the businesses that are there. And we are, yes, 1820 East Haggard Street. And as soon as we have our first event there, I will let you know. And definitely when we're opening, I would love to let you know because the whole concept of that is for it to be a see it, be it model. I'd love to be able to share the wins and the losses around it so that we can fine tune it and create these in other places, whether they be called corner joint or not. Just simply the model of it, I think, could be, really, really great because corner stores. Growing up in Germantown, I don't there's countless corner stores all around us, and I know that for many other urban communities as well. So if that's the place where we ran down to the corner to go grab something for your mom, like that's where I learned that you didn't have to buy a dozen eggs. You could buy a half dozen, and if you needed, you could buy one egg. So, that's where people got familiar with their food in a different way. And so I recognized in the year 2000, the year 2020, um, that I was walking around during COVID and I stopped in corner stores and I was like, hey, would you sell our produce? And they were like, fortunately, it probably won't sell. And I was like, yeah, so this is actually not a you problem. This is a psychology of the people that live here problem. And if they're not going to buy fresh produce from here, why? So I started to really just like reverse engineer this idea now that is called Corner John. And I'm looking forward to bringing it to life for everyone to be able to partake of.
Thank you. Thanks so much. We have another question from Cora. She said, my alma mater, Dickinson College, has an experimental farm in Cumberland County. They concentrate on farms that are 87 acres or less. Have you been in contact with them at all?
I haven't. I recently just learned about Dixon in college as well, so I'd love to gather more information and please share.
Awesome. Thank you. We also have some love for your t-shirt.
Oh, thank you. This is an OG. This is an OG shirt, I will say. I designed this so many years ago, probably 2019. But this is when I first realized that I've never grown any other way. I've only ever grown organically, and I wanted to put a message out there for people to know that that's the way that's the way you should be eating. So I haven't recreated these in a really long time. As you can see, this one's a little dusty, but yeah, it's a good one for sure. Thank you.
Absolutely. So we also have another question. Have you considered reaching out to local veterans to become farmers? Growing and being outdoors also helps war-hardened vets.
Absolutely, and thank you so much for that call out. We have, and I'll just lump in there too, recidivism is a big piece of that too, because that there this is all forms of rehabilitation and being outside, putting your hands in soil. It has been clinically proven to improve your optimal wellness and your mental health. And I sit on the board of Rodale Institute. That's also some organization you should absolutely know about. They are investing in so many ways in the research around regenerative organic agriculture and ensuring that they are taking the people that matter with them along the way. They offer programs that are paid to train people how to farm, and their program for veterans specifically is one to highlight. That does exist, and I absolutely would love to be able to create a mini version of that where we can do it in our areas that here, because the Alberta Institute is in Kutztown University. The lovely thing about them is, for those who are interested, you apply. In the event you do get into that program for that year, they put you up and they pay you. So there, that's a, or if you have people in mind that you're thinking of and they have the bandwidth to be able to leave for 10 months and live amongst other farmers that are learning and growing and be able to produce events and all types of things, it's a great experience, great opportunity for all ages. And I have the great opportunity to then have that whole group every year comes to our farm to visit us, to work alongside us, and to kind of learn what we do on a smaller scale. And so, yes, the answer to your question is yes. And I do see a world where we could create something with one of the many spaces that I'm sure are empty and available in Delaware County where we could start to do more for our veterans.
Wonderful. And the last question, and I think a fantastic way to end this afternoon, is how can we help? What's the biggest call for today for our Delco residents?
Yeah, so depending on where you're at in Delaware County, you're super close to us. I'd love to get people on site. I love to see people. I can't see any of you, but I love to really just connect with people and to hear from you individually, whether you reach out and have a call and talk to me about what your pain point is, and I can share with you where I'd love to see us increase. It's just getting more people on that farm, getting more people to visit what we built, to come to our storefront, and in addition to be able to actually have your hands in our soil. We are the future. Everyone that's currently listening in an earshot, we are the future. We're going to be the ones that make a difference. If you're coming to a conference like this to hear someone like me talking about this, that means you care, and I want to know who you are. So I'd say that we could start there, and this is not a short term fix for anything. That this We're playing the long game here. We're definitely playing the long game, and so I'd love to have you just come alongside me as we do these things.
Wonderful. And we did receive a connection point for local vets as well, which I'm happy to share with you
Beautiful.
after. So, with that, I just want to issue a tremendous thank you to you, Christa, for joining us today and just for sharing all of your knowledge and passion. It's so evident and it's electric in hearing you speak about this. So, we're just so thankful you were able to join us. Uh, in
Oh,
ter-
thank you. So happy
you
to
are
be
so
here.
welcome. Just for all those participating, want to let you know following today's session, there will be a survey that you are sent. We ask that you please provide your feedback. Any feedback you provide really lets us know what the topics are, what's of interest, so we can make sure that we're getting those into future programs out of the Delaware County Office of Sustainability. And finally, we also want to just invite you all to attend our closing keynote, which will be held tomorrow, Saturday, June 14th, at the Lazaretto in Tinicum Township. This event will include breakfast and a keynote presentation from Glenn the Hurricane Schwartz, and will be followed by an EV Expo, networking with more than 30 local organizations, and museum tours of the historic Lazaretto Quarantine Station. Walk-ins are welcome for this event. So thank you again, everyone who has hung with us this week. Christa, you were the end of our wonderful virtual sessions this week. And we just want to thank you all
So,
again for your participation in the fourth annual Delaware County Sustainability Conference. So thanks so much, everybody. Alrighty, bye-bye.